Hello, dear friends. I hope you're doing really well. Let's continue reading. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 21, and here, obviously, there are more laws. We're not going to read the whole chapter because the last two verses are different. I want to say more things about those tomorrow, but we're going to read almost all the chapter with these different laws. Let's read. If a slain person is found lying in the open country in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess, and it is not known who has struck him, then your elders and your judges shall go out and measure the distance to the cities which are around the slain one. It shall be that the city which is nearest to the slain man, that is, the elders of that city, shall take a heifer of the herd which has not been worked and which has not pulled in a yoke, and the elders of that city shall bring the heifer down to a valley with running water, which has not been plowed or sown, and shall break the heifer's neck there in the valley. One second. Okay, then the priest, the son of Levi, shall come near, for the Lord your God has chosen them to serve him and to bless in the name of the Lord, and every dispute and every assault shall be settled by them. All the elders of that city which is nearest to the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley. And they shall answer and say, Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it. Forgive your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, O Lord, and do not place the guilt of innocent blood in the midst of your people Israel. Give your people and do not place the guilt of innocent blood. And the blood guiltiness shall be forgiven them. So you shall remove the guilt of innocent blood from your midst when you do what is right in the eyes of the Lord. When you go out to battle against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, and you take them away captive, and see among the captives a beautiful woman, and have a desire for her, and would take her as a wife for yourself, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and trim her nails. She shall also remove the clothes of her captivity, and shall remain in your house and mourn her father and mother a full month. And after that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. It shall be, if you are not pleased with her, then you shall let her go wherever she wishes, but you shall certainly not sell her for money. You shall not mistreat her because you have humbled her. Oh, wait. If a man has two wives, the one loved and the other unloved, and both the loved and the unloved have borne him sons, if the firstborn son belongs to the unloved, then it shall be in the day he wills what he has to his sons, he cannot make the son of the loved the firstborn before the son of the unloved, who is the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the firstborn, the son of the unloved, by giving him a double portion of all that he has, for he is the beginning of his strength. To him belongs the right of the firstborn. If any man has a stubborn and rebellious son, who will not obey his father or his mother, and when they chastise him he will not even listen to them, then his father and mother shall seize him and bring him out to the elders and his city at the gateway of his hometown. They shall say to the elders of his city, This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of his city shall stone him to death. So you shall remove the evil from your midst, and all Israel will hear of it and fear. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. There are these very personal, very I don't know how to say, delicate personal laws, all regarding human life. The first one is if on the road near any city a dead man, a dead person was found, the judges, the authorities of the nearby cities have to measure the distance from the city to the road to where the dead man was found, and the city that was the closest had to do a ceremony. And in this ceremony, they would take a heifer and take it to a particular place, a valley with running water and some other characteristics. And they would do a ceremony in which they would offer the heifer, sacrifice the heifer, and they would wash their hands on top of the animal, and they would tell God, please God, don't blame us for the death of this person. We are innocent of the blood of that man. So please, they would ask God to grant them just forgiveness, and not to place the guiltiness of the dead person on them, because they didn't kill it. They didn't kill the man. So it was an important ceremony to acknowledge, dear friends, to acknowledge that the death of a person is serious. The death of a person has consequences, dear friends. Do you remember when in Genesis Cain killed Abel, and God later told Cain that the blood of his brother was like crying to God. It's like when innocent blood is shed, dear friends, it has serious consequences for this earth. So when whoever found a dead person, the city nearby had to do this ceremony in which pretty much the authorities of the city would ask God that God doesn't blame the death of a person on them, because if he did, and of course, dear friends, it's when I think about it, it seems a little obvious, because God knows everything, but God knows everything, dear friends. God knows who killed that person or what happened to that person, but He wants us to acknowledge that an unjust death is a serious thing. Is a serious thing. And a person that dies in an unjust way is something that people should acknowledge. It was unfair, it was unjust, it was horrible. So this ceremony was for that, to tell God to please not put the blame on that city, on Israel, because if that city had killed that person, if anyone else said that he killed that person, then that city would be in trouble. It would, bad things will happen to them, because God is a righteous judge. So they needed to do this ceremony. God knows, but God wants us to acknowledge and to talk to Him, and to be honest with Him. So the second law of this chapter is about a man that has gone to war, okay, but not to war in the promised land. In the last chapter, we already learned there are 6 nations that Israel has to terminate, okay? No captives from them. They need to terminate 6 nations, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, the Amorites, and Perizzites, and others. But what is going to happen is that Israel is going to conquer other cities as well. Not only those 6 nations, but other cities. They're going to conquer other cities far away. So let's say they go conquer a city far away, and among the captives there is a beautiful woman, and an Israel man wants to marry that woman. It was not just like that. He would have to take her, but he would have to wait a month. In that month, the captive woman would shave her hair, cut her nails, change her clothes, I think too, and she would, weep for family, because she wouldn't be able to, see her family again, or something like that. And after a month, then he had to marry her. He would marry her because he wanted to marry her. So that was after a month. And if, let's say, they marry and after a while, he decides he doesn't want to be with her anymore. He couldn't sell her as a slave. He couldn't sell her. He couldn't make any profit out of her. He would just let her go to wherever she wanted to go. Okay? So that's the second law of this chapter. The third law is about a man that has two wives. I know it sounds weird because, it's one man and one woman, right? We already know that from Genesis and from the law. It's one man and one woman. But it's still, there were situations in which a man took two women, even now in Deuteronomy. So if a man had two wives, one always, when there are two wives, dear friends, one is going to be loved and the other is going to be not loved, unloved, okay, not loved. And if the unloved wife had the firstborn son, even if she was not loved, her first son was the firstborn, and he had the right to a double inheritance. That was a right of the firstborn. It was an important thing. I don't know if it's nowadays, but at least in my culture, it was also a important thing. But in Israel, I guess back then, I don't know if it is today. I have no idea. But back then, it was so important. The firstborn had like more responsibilities and had the double inheritance. Now, the third law, no, this is the third law. The last law, which is not the last one of the chapter, is one more, but I want to read that tomorrow. The next to the last is this about a rebellious son. Let's say a couple had a rebellious son, didn't want to obey, didn't want to do anything that parents told him. He was like a lazy, glutton, drunk, rebellious. And the parents had to take him to the judges and tell the judges, this is my son, he's rebellious, he doesn't listen to us, he doesn't do anything, he's a drunk, whatever, And the city would stone him. Now, this seems so harsh, right? But it's here. The law is here. I don't know if it took place. I don't know. Because, I know parents tend to protect their children even when they're rebellious, but the law is here. So I'm going to stop here. Hopefully we can continue with the last two verses of this chapter tomorrow. Bye-bye.